I've been working as a football journalist for 24 years, and I've covered all kinds of stories. But what happened on December 18th is the greatest pure sports story I've ever covered.
My name's Ellie Menjam, and for the past few years I've been traversing Europe, documenting the tales of football clubs and their fan bases who've been on the verge of winning something for the first time in a long time, if not ever. From northern Turkey to southern Spain, from southwest Germany to the Basque Country, I've been on a mission to show how important it is that the game has a variety of winners so that we learn about new places, new people, new cultures, and most importantly, new stories. Then came the 2022 FIFA World Cup, where I knew the exact once-in-a-lifetime story I had to tell. So as the world's media descended on Qatar to be at the tournament, Kopadani and I decided to fly 8,000 miles in the opposite direction to tell the ultimate story of a football fan base on the brink of ending a 36-year wait for the biggest prize in sport. But what we found was a story that transcended football, a story that reached into the very soul of a nation that laid itself bare over 2 fateful weeks. A story that etched a struggle for identity and a search for glory that began over 2 centuries ago. A story about Lionel Messi, Argentina, and 45 million people yearning to reclaim their place in history. This is the all-angle, on-the-ground, as-it-happened, ultimate account of perhaps the greatest football story of our time. This is Once in a Lifetime. Back in Buenos Aires, hungover but at least not jet-lagged, we'd returned to a city basically running on World Cup hype, where all anyone was wearing, all anyone was watching, all anyone was reading, or all anyone was reading whilst watching was World Cup related. So to get a grasp of the situation, naturally, we obeyed the Kabbalah and started our World Cup final countdown by catching up with Santi, who wore the exact same shirt and insisted on speaking in the exact same spot.
Welcome back to the bench, the Kabbalah's bench.
One more.
For the third and
Just
final
one more.
time, yes.
And whilst there was a lot to talk about, there was one particular subject we had to start with.
It's funny, we came here obviously to tell this story once in a lifetime, hoping, but I don't think there's any way we could have had this many magical Messi moments, in particular, magical Messi moments. He is equal top goal scorer, most assists, most chances created, most dribbles. Everyone's been talking about how he needs a tournament where he grabs the World Cup by the scruff of its neck, like Diego did.
Right. And he's achieving all of this at the age of 35. You can't forget about that.
But no one was forgetting, with even the notoriously demanding Argentinian media gushing in their praise. Best summed up by the words of reporter Sofía Martínez, who chose not to ask Messi something, but tell him.
Se viene una final del mundo y si bien todos queremos ganar la Copa, quiero decirte que más allá del resultado, hay algo que no te va a sacar nadie. Atravesaste a cada uno de los argentinos, de verdad te lo digo.
And so with even the media caught up in the Messi love fest, I caught up with journalist Joel Richards to find out more.
I thought it was really moving and really touching. I thought she said what everyone was thinking.
I mean, he's the one who is making us all dream, who is getting us so optimistic and hopeful.
And in every walk of life, in every social interaction, people are lighter on their feet, they're happy, they're smiling. And that's not something that always comes hand in hand with Argentines. That's not the stereotype.
You see, the ubiquitous optimism we were coming across wasn't exactly typical of modern Argentinian life.
You've only been here in Argentina for a week. You might think, people celebrating, chanting, being happy, this is normal. It's not normal. You know what's normal? Political turmoil is normal.
The country's vice president was threatened with a gun.
Inflation is normal.
People in Argentina are struggling with one of the highest inflation rates in the world.
But then the World Cup comes around, Messi shines, and now you got, people standing on top of rooftops and buses.
Each day a new viral video came out, documenting the unbelievable World Cup effect on the country. From the goal reactions in the airport and on Argentinian flights, to those suffering from Argentina's constant power outages. Who were then forced to listen outside on car radios. It turned out the combination of Argentinian passion and emotions with long summer days and a deep dramatic World Cup run was the perfect recipe for a never-ending cycle of mad moments. From heartwarming scenes of generosity, to bizarre moments of anarchy, to hilarious acts of passionate stupidity. But nothing embodied the magic unfolding as much as the Abuela phenomenon, which all began when 76-year-old Maria Cristina joined a post-match celebration to the cries of Abuela! La, 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 la. Abuela! La, 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 la. And so all across the nation, any woman of a particular age found themselves being serenaded with
in Rosario, they went to Messi's grandmother's place, his old grandmother's place, to just sing about the fact that she's the grandmother of Messi.
This World Cup has not just been a distraction from people, it's transformed Argentine society.
You got people hanging from traffic lights, you got elderly kissing on the street.
People are happier. It's that simple.
There was a fight that was broken out because the two people who were fighting were reminded that Argentina had won and had qualified for the final of the World Cup. I mean, this is not normal in Argentina. Esto no es normal.
Spontaneously, acts of generosity, happiness that just aren't things that people are used to hearing about.
It was an old man. He was watching the game on a TV from outside a store, and now the store has bought the TV for that old man.
A wealthy Argentine bought Maradona's old house. That man has, since on match day, has opened up his house, put on a barbecue, and just let the house fill up with supporters who want to go and be in the place where Maradona lived to watch the game. And it's just unthinkable, opening up your house to strangers. It's unthinkable in Argentina. And so many people have been saying, if only we could take this week and just make it last. Because everyone's demeanour, the way they go about their daily life, the way they are at home, the way parents are with their children, has been transformed by Argentina reaching the final of the World Cup.
Because this Sunday we're playing at a World Cup final for the first time in 8 years, with a chance of winning it for the first time in 36.
Es la única alegría que podemos llegar a tener. Lo único.
The mood around Argentina has been at an all-time low. We've been dealt blow after blow after blow.
Nos vienen perjudicando desde el fondo de la historia todos los distintos gobiernos. Y bueno, es la alegría del pueblo, el fútbol, la evasión de ser por un instante feliz.
¿Estás llorando?
¿Cómo?
¿Estás llorando?
Me emociona hablar de Argentina.
But he wasn't the only one getting emotional at the significance of what it all meant, as eventually it even began to dawn on me just what we were a part of.
It's not getting too much for me now. Go on.
No more so than when speaking to Maya, who put it all into context so succinctly.
El país hoy está atravesando una situación, un contexto social y político complejo, y sin embargo la gente lo único que piensa es en ganar la final del mundo, como que no nos importa más nada, ¿no? La gente sale a festejar como si no le faltara comida, como si no tuviéramos problemas laborales, como si no nos importara más nada que festejar.
72 hours until the big final, and Argentina had their opponents confirmed. The Kylian Mbappé-led France, who are the current world champions and the nation who kicked Argentina out of the last World Cup. But whoever we caught up with didn't seem fazed.
Who cares about Mbappé? We've got Messi. Hace jugar al equipo. Hace jugar al equipo. Todo el equipo juega. Not only has he scored 5 goals, done 3 assists, he's become like a manager inside the pitch for his teammates, you know?
But this confidence felt deeper than just a belief in Messi.
Like we say, the planets are aligning for everything to become one.
Hay mucha gente que por ejemplo habla de lo que son las coincidencias con este mundial, con el 86.
There is something like curious about it. When Argentina win in the 86, he was 17 years old. Right now, I am 17 years old.
El árbitro que va a dirigir la final nació el mismo día que, con distinto año, pero el mismo día que había nacido el árbitro que dirigió la final del 86.
And so it came as no surprise the country's most popular World Cup commercial was based around the subject.
La final del Mundial 86 se jugó a las 12 del mediodía y la de Qatar se va a jugar a las 12 del mediodía.
Otra vez con las coincidencias.
Yet, for all the talk of fate, their superstitious ways continued, as I learnt from Vanessa, a UK-born daughter of an Argentinian who moved to the country 15 years ago.
Like all these white witches, they're casting spells, they're like writing symbolic numbers and putting them in the freezer, they're burying things in the garden.
Y las brujinetas que son un grupo de brujas argentinas que lo que hacen es ayudar energéticamente a la escaloneta.
It's like white magic.
Y se armó como una red de brujas online que le mandan buena onda. Vos me estás diciendo, ¿en serio, Jason?
Sí.
¿Red de brujas? Sí, en serio.
In fact, even I had created my own Kabbalah superstition. Too scared to shave my beard in fear of affecting the result.
The worst part is it's summer, so it gets extra itchy, extra sweaty. Not that you need the details, but honestly, the things I'm doing just to get this team over the line.
Another day closer to the final meant another day of hysterical World Cup moments.
You think it can't get crazier, and it does. They've just announced they've renamed streets in Mar del Plata after Leo Messi and Scaloni. Talk about what this means. They haven't even won it yet.
Meanwhile, I finally came across the reason why we'd come across so many Bangladeshi flags.
Bangladesh desde el año 86. Desde que Maradona le hizo el gol a los ingleses, la mano de Dios, desde ese día la gente de Bangladesh fue muchos años colonia de Inglaterra. Y cuando vieron que un país como Argentina derrotó una potencia como Inglaterra, ellos se enamoraron del fútbol argentino, de Maradona.
And so, due to this connection, Argentina's World Cup run to the final was creating scenes in Bangladesh that even impressed the Argentinians.
Lo más loco fue la bandera de 10 kilómetros cruzando toda una ciudad entera. Costó como $30.000, una cosa abismal, una locura.
Then there were the matchday scenes.
Se juntan más de 100.000 personas, todos juntos a alentar. Pantalla gigante, la gente de madrugada despierta, no duermen, festejan hasta las 5 de la mañana, 6 de la mañana. Es una locura y a nosotros eso nos enamoró. Y nosotros queremos darle este humilde homenaje.
We had reached the eve of the final, where a noticeable change of mood was in the air, as the confidence of the past few days seemed to be enveloped by the thought of a loss.
Claro, este partido para Argentina, por la pasión del pueblo, no lo puede perder. Significa mucho para ellos. Creo que es el más importante de la historia en estos momentos para Argentina, este partido.
¿En serio?
Sí.
¿Más que 86?
Más, porque...
¿Más que 78?
Sí, porque con Maradona estaban tan afianzados.
With this in mind, I decided to head to the stadium of Argentinos Juniors, the club where Maradona's career began and where I'd been told a shrine to Diego had been set up since he passed away. And it's here I met Gaston, whose words and demeanor embodied the anxiety of the entire country.
Este torneo es ahora o nunca para Argentina.
Claro.
Sí.
Y sí, porque después Messi tal vez no va a jugar más.
On the verge of tears the entire time we spoke, Gaston had come to the shrine to pray to the man who'd last won the country a World Cup.
Hoy particularmente por el partido de mañana.
Sí.
Nosotros creemos que de alguna manera, bueno, él está siempre mirando y guiando a lo que hace nuestra selección.
And it wasn't long before more people arrived to do the same.
¿Estás acá por mañana?
Obviamente, le vengo a pedir al Diego que mañana vengamos con la copa.
Sí,
amo ser argentina, amo mi país.
Vamos a pedir a Dios, a nuestro Dios del fútbol, nuestro Dios.
Pedimos por todo, por el país, por la gente, por todo. Salir campeones, darle una alegría al pueblo.
Nosotros, los argentinos, siempre decimos, cueste lo que cueste, mañana hay que ganar.
And so after 9 long days, containing 2 dramatic matches in 2 intense cities, with dozens of interviews from dozens of perspectives, as the sun began to set on the eve of the final, I felt we had a pretty clear perspective of this World Cup in this country. But I still had one particularly important interview to conduct with my old friend Izzy, who'd been part of all my previous films in Argentina, where he'd always been his unapologetically Argentine self. And this time was no different.
Long time no see you.
Better than ever?
I can't say the same, but...
Argentinians.
I mean, I don't want to lie.
When I'd first interviewed Izzy back in 2017, the mere mention of Maradona had him waxing lyrical.
Maradona is different, you know? It's him against all odds. It's him playing miracles. It's like we're on the verge of dying and he resurrects. us, like Jesus Christ, you know? Put it like that.
But when asked about Messi,
If he's the best player in the world for Barcelona and never deliver for us, it's the same as nothing. It's better not have him.
now, half a decade later, with the new Maradonian Messi having brought Argentina a Copa America and another World Cup final, I was curious to hear if Izzy and his father Marcos, who'd supported the team at 6 World Cups around the world, felt any differently the day before Messi could finally deliver what they'd been waiting 36 years for. And I got my answers straight away.
There's no achievement in reaching the final. The silver medal doesn't count for anything.
Now, initially, they tried to claim the criticism wasn't reflective of themselves.
I'm not saying it's right, but unfortunately, knowing my countryman, if he doesn't win tomorrow, things are gonna go pretty south for him.
But whenever the question came up of whether Messi had done enough for Argentina, regardless of the result in the final,
Si gana, va a estar en...
Si pierde.
Si pierde.
Si pierde. If he loses, he's gonna be just, remember Messi.
Es un loser. Si pierde es un loser. No importa todo lo que hizo antes, solo mañana.
We're like bad parents. Deep inside, we love him, but he needs to win. He needs to win, you know? That's it.
You're so harsh. If he wins, will you be equally as appreciative?
If he wins, Messi's my idol. I will put a flag there that says, I'm sorry, Messi. But if he doesn't win, I can't say on camera what the flag's gonna say.
And if you thought that was harsh,
Mañana se define la historia de Messi.
Messi, if tomorrow he wins.
Mañana, tomorrow. Si gana mañana, es un héroe. Si mañana pierde,
es así. If tomorrow they win, it's San Messi. San Messi. If he lost, you're a fucking failure and go back to Spain.
And whilst things got a little too heated, when we did get back on track, it was my turn to rant.
I disagree. Did you not see the interview with the journalist after the match? Where she told him, I don't want to ask you a question, I want to tell you something. We want to thank you for making us dream again, making us hope again. It doesn't matter the final result.
Yeah, but the dream could turn into a nightmare if we lose.
No, but she specifically said the result doesn't matter.
And she was speaking on behalf of the whole country.
Yeah.
Why?
Or maybe she was speaking on behalf of a generation or two, a different generation to you guys. A generation who didn't get to see Maradona's wonders, but what Messi's given them is as close as possible to someone who has become a god, a deity, and is another unattainable Argentinian dream. Maybe you need to relax that and forget it and let it go and go, you got to see something beautiful, but this tournament.
Yes, this tournament is different.
Yes, he's shown the fight. He's argued with refs. He's argued with players. He's remonstrated against coaches. He's done it all.
Yeah, he has one last thing to do. To win.
Win
tomorrow.
Oh, well, here we go. The sun rises on arguably Argentina's most important, most significant day this century, maybe. I'm not just talking about in a sporting context, I'm talking about in general. I know Argentina has gone through a lot lately. I've heard a lot in the past, but you know, everyone you speak to, whether they're young, old, rich, poor, everyone says the same thing. They've never felt such a dramatic shift in the mood of society, and it's all been leading up to this. It's funny, you know, I always get emotionally caught up in whichever story I'm telling, wherever it is in the world. But I don't think I've ever been as emotionally involved as I have here this time. I haven't shaved because of Kabbalahs. I haven't slept because of nerves. The other day, interviewing Maya, I started crying 2 questions into her answers, and whilst yes, her words were poetic, beautiful, there was something deeper, you know? I really started to realize what was at stake here. I really started to realize how this might be not just the football story of the year, this might be the football story of the decade. That's extreme, but you look at it like this. I didn't grow up with this game. I found it in my teens when I started seeing how it entrenched itself into a person's soul, into a community, into a country like no other sport, like no other anything could. And I feel like Argentinians, whether it's because of their extroverted ways, because of their obsessive personality, because of their innate desire to want to realize glorious, unattainable, realistically unachievable dreams, they may be more than Brazil, maybe even more than England, the most passionate football nation, at least when it comes to this tournament and it comes to their national team and their number 10s. You know, in his book about football and his time spent here, Jonathan Wilson said that he doesn't believe that there's a country on earth that romanticizes or intellectualizes the game like the Argentinians do. And he's right, it's true. But for me, I think it's more than that. It's the way they use football to express themselves through song, through hand gestures, through the way they bounce. It's the way they incorporate it into their social and political movements. It's the way they cling on to football to give them hope when hope seems so far away here. And so with all of that in mind, I just can't help thinking, how does Argentina, at least in my opinion, the most football and World Cup obsessed nation on earth, deal with this?
And so as kickoff approached and the streets of Buenos Aires emptied, once again our crew split up to try and document the fixture amongst a variety of different people, places and perspectives. One camera headed to the city fan zone, already at capacity hours before kickoff. One camera headed to a family home, that of Izzy and his father Marcos. We found one Argentinian cameraman willing to film for half of the match with Gaston, the supporter I'd met at the Maradona shrine. And as for me and my cameraman Igal, we were determined to capture the essence of the streets of Buenos Aires on the day of Argentina's only ever World Cup final in their summer. And so after a long time searching, I found Ronaldo, the only cab driver willing to work during the match. And that was only because he was Venezuelan and we'd offered him nearly a month's salary. And so together we roamed the deserted streets of the capital, visiting the small businesses that couldn't afford to shut even though the government announced it was a public holiday. From bakeries to butchers, from cafes to kiosks. And though our strategy didn't get off to the best start thanks to a very Argentinian reason.
That's amazing. So we wanted to watch it with the people who couldn't watch it. They don't want to watch it with me because I might be coverless.
Luckily, we found a grocery store willing to accommodate us just in time for kickoff.
I mean, we're 90 minutes away, man. I can't believe I'm saying that. We're 90 minutes away. 90 minutes away from, I mean, I've heard stories my whole life of my parents talking about, 78, Kempes, 86, Maradona. And I've been fed those stories constantly while never quite watching it for myself. And I finally have that chance. We're only one game away. One game away from finally creating my own stories of Argentina winning the World Cup. Do you understand that?
And so we were off. The 2022 FIFA World Cup final had begun, and the entire nation was strapped in for one final ride on the emotional roller coaster that is supporting this nation at this tournament. And whilst France may have been the best team in the world, it was Argentina who began with all the chances. The only problem being, they weren't taking any of them. Meanwhile, I was back on the road, looking to find other people and places to watch, to get as broad a perspective as possible on such a unique day.
Hola, ¿puedo mirar contigo?
Yet no matter the person, no matter the place, it was the same talking point it had been all week. Messi.
El país está en los hombros de Messi en estos momentos. A los políticos no le ponen tanta carga como le están poniendo a Messi. Este es el momento clave para que Messi se consagre, porque está en el final de su carrera, como el mejor jugador del mundo.
But Messi needs the World Cup.
La historia argentina con Messi depende de lo que pase mañana. Si gana, va a estar allá en el trono. Si pierde, va a estar abajo de la tierra.
He has to win tomorrow.
El periodismo lo va a destruir si mañana no gana.
Y la sociedad también.
porque hasta ahora no podía competir contra Maradona.
What would he have to do to reach Maradona's level?
To be in the same conversation, at least to win the World Cup.
He's 90 minutes away.
And be part of it, not like Ronaldo in the Euro 2016. Score the goal.
Penalty Argentina, 21 minutes in. This is actually happening. Who takes the penalty? Ken? Messi. Messi? Even our cab driver, Ronaldo, get in here. Messi is a penalty kick away from doing what even Maradona couldn't do. Scoring in the final. Show us why you're the best in the world. Come to me. Listen, they say when you go to Argentina, look at that. Look at that. Argentina in front. Messi has scored in a World Cup final. Look what it means. Look what it means. He's actually done it. Look at people on the street. Come on. It's actually fucking happening.
Now, whether it was the sunstroke or the orchestra of balcony roars, it's fair to say I'd lost my head and was completely swept up in the occasion, high-fiving traffic and hugging strangers on the street. But eventually, I did remember there was still the vast majority of the game still to be played. And so we entered our fifth location of the day, where we had just enough time for a quick dance and a quick drink to calm down before Argentina were on the attack once again. And whilst it's evident I lost my head once again, in all fairness, so had everyone else. As children, teenagers, and even grown adults, all seemed overcome with all kinds of emotions. As one by one, it seemed to dawn on everyone that Argentina might really be winning a World Cup again. And as incredible as it was being amongst the chaos indoors, I was desperate once again to experience that roar of the streets that only a Buenos Aires World Cup match day can provide.
Everyone in the streets. ¿A dónde vas? ¿A dónde vas? Obelisco ahora mismo. Sí. Porque es no término. They're already going to the obelisk.
Never before had a halftime felt as needed for the players as it did the supporters, myself included, as already everyone seemed to be emotionally exhausted.
Este país se mueve por el fútbol, por la pasión y por lo que ama. Y el fútbol es una de ellas. La fuerza de la selección y la fuerza de los 45 millones de argentinos que estamos hoy nosotros acá, sin poder dormir, sin poder comer, sin pensar en otra cosa, es la última para mañana. Es lo último que queremos, es la última que necesitamos y es la última que él se merece. Porque no solamente se la merece él, se la merece él, sino la merecemos todos nosotros, por todo el aguante y por toda la resistencia que estamos haciendo. Es lo único que queremos. Es lo único que le pedimos a Dios, no le pedimos otra cosa. Lo único que le pedimos a Dios es esto. Podemos estar pasándola mal, podemos estar cagándonos de hambre, pero lo único que pedimos es esto. No pedimos otra cosa. Nosotros, con un mundial, con una Copa del Mundo más y más encima, viéndolo a Messi levantando la Copa del Mundo, este país cambia.
And so the second half began with the country in the best mood I had ever seen it, as the final 45 minutes were being counted down with an energy and an enthusiasm that could only be described as a collective shedding of the 36 years worth of hurt and heartbreak that this country had attached to the tournament. And so as we slowly made our way deeper into the city, I started noticing that the roads and footpaths were a lot busier than the first half. So naturally I had to find out more. For some, it was just another case of Argentine superstition.
¿Por qué tú no miras el partido en su casa?
Es cábala, hermano. Esto se gana o se gana, como sea, pero se gana, loco.
Estoy viendo el partido y salí al tiempo a buscar velas.
Voy a girar, voy a dar vuelta, voy a gritar, voy a anotar, voy a tocar la bocina.
Velas para prenderles, para buena energía.
Ha estado todo el partido acá sentado. Sí.
Y ahora vi el partido y decidí quedarme.
Es mi manera, mi locura. ¿Sí? Sí, no, me pone muy nervioso verlo.
Because of the Kabbalahs?
Sí,
cábalas.
Por cábala.
For others, it was just a case of sheer optimism.
En el auto y no en la casa, ¿por qué no lo ve y lo escucha?
Porque vamos al obelisco, donde está todo, la hinchada, la gente.
¿Obelisco? ¿Ahora mismo obelisco?
Sí.
No ha terminado, ¿no?
Pero todavía no, pero falta. Igual, vamos que viene tercero.
This is actually insane. There's so many more cars on the street than I thought. And when it turns out everyone's going to the obelisco early, there's still half an hour left. Okay, yes, get excited. You're half an hour away from ending this 36-year drought, but you're still Argentina. You can still suffer. It was only a few games ago, that Dutch match. Let's not get too cocky.
And so we were off to our next location, where that reserved anticipation I was hoping for was nowhere to be seen. And it was the same in the fan zone, where with just over 10 minutes to go, the finish line was in sight and being celebrated accordingly. In fact, the only corner of the country that didn't seem swept up in a similar euphoria was Izzy's house. And whether that was down to their experience or their cynicism, turns out they were right to be cautious.
Hizo penal. Hizo penal.
¡Tirar a la mierda! ¡Te lo dije, tirar a la mierda!
¿Un penal?
Sí, penal para ellos.
¿Para ellos?
And whilst I couldn't get a clear sight at the screen to see what was going on,
I think it's a penalty to France. Is it a penalty? They're singing Dibble.
Mbappe was already lining up the spot kick.
France score 2-1. I told you, these guys only know how to suffer. Oh no, now begins the stress.
But before the anxiety could even kick in, before the prayers could even be answered, before the worst case scenario could even be imagined, after leading the match for 57 minutes, including a 2-goal lead for 45 minutes, with only 10 minutes left, Argentina had given it all up within the space of 97 seconds. And so as the hands of happiness in the air were replaced with hands of heartbreak on heads, I was now starting to realise there was actually quite a lot of sense in Izzy's cynicism.
You're right. It is a dream. But a nightmare is a type of dream too, you know? And losing the World Cup in the final is a fucking nightmare. It's getting so close, so close. I much prefer like losing quarterfinals.
And so as we moved on to our next location, where the mood was neither warm nor welcoming.
Because we think we could win. But if that doesn't happen, everything goes away. What if all the love will go away.
Minute by minute, Izzy's predictions played out.
This country, football.
¿Cuánto? ¿Qué te pasa? ¿Qué pasa? ¿Pasa?
No.
¿Pasa?
We're not saying that we personally feel like that. We're just saying that knowing our country and knowing our people, if he doesn't win tomorrow, this is what's going to happen.
Again, he was right, as we began seeing Argentinians threatening and turning on each other. And so as we moved away for our own safety, once again, it was Izzy's words, this time from our chat in 2017, that rang true.
I'll say it in Spanish. The Argentinian nos vivimos amacando entre la gloria y devoto. Always.
And well, with the glory period long gone with that lead, we found ourselves stuck in what felt like Argentinian hell. No more so than when the guy from the argument returned. Because that thing he's looking down at under his shirt, well, you may not be able to see it, but I can. And it's a gun. And as desperate as I was to document every angle of this final from the perspective of the Buenos Aires streets, even I didn't want to stick around to find out what happened next.
Let's go. He has a gun. He has a gun. Drive. He has a gun.
Why are you guys like this so black and white?
Holy shit, you see that?
Yeah. He was pulling out a gun. I saw it. Heaven or hell. It's like, actually, that's the best analogy. That's Maradona. Heaven or hell. There's no middle ground. There's no shades of grey. Black, white.
Out of nowhere, 2-0 up, and then we're pulling guns on each other. This beautiful, chaotic, glorious, but flawed country, man. Their football, their experiences at this tournament couldn't embody this country more. To go from such glorious highs to lows.
But if we thought we had seen the lowest point, well, we were sorely mistaken. As only a few minutes later, and only a few blocks up the exact same street, we found out just how chaotic Argentina can get on such a day.
Something's happening. Oh, drive. Was that a gun? Was that a gun?
Eso fue una pistola, ¿no?
Tenemos de todo, no sé quién quiere. Ponga algo, no sé, dígame. Vamos, Poli, algo.
What is going on in this country?
Just like those at the fan zone, just like those at Izzy's house, the emotional roller coaster of this final had pushed me to the edge.
I see, I don't know anymore. I don't know where we're going anymore. I don't know what's going on anymore. I don't know what's going on. Just drive. Drive. Fuck me. It's 2-2 still. Why did everyone think it was a penalty? The guy in the bar was crying.
And so as full time was called, with the footpaths of Buenos Aires filled with despondent bodies and the roads filled with SWAT teams preparing for the worst, I tried my best to sum it all up.
How poetic. The exact same spot where I stopped about 30 minutes ago and said, let's not get too excited at 2-0. Since then, it's gone to 2-2, but in that time we've seen fights. I've seen a gun, I've seen a man pull a gun, and we've heard what we think are gunshots. I set it up on the rooftop this morning. And I just can't help thinking with, it's 5:30 now, less than 7 hours to go. Am I ready for this? Are we ready for this? Is this country ready for this? When you consider how already emotional they are about everything, when you consider everything that's gone on in the last 2 weeks, it's like the entire city, its spirit has been sucked through the drains. People are crying on every corner. People aren't watching the match. People are fighting. And so the pain and the suffering and the weight goes on. And the emotions continue.
Extra time had come with a palpable shift in mood, where the anger at giving up such a lead so quickly had been replaced with a sadness at just how precarious the situation was.
Messi no trae la copa, viene una triste Navidad en Argentina.
Claro, porque acuérdate que los mundiales son en julio y en junio. Y ahora, como cambiaron la fecha, serían, yo creo, las Navidades más tristes de la historia en Argentina.
But it wasn't for a lack of trying, as from the moment extra time kicked off, Argentina dominated. With chance after chance after chance. But ultimately, nothing to show for it. So as the first half of extra time came to an end, despite the encouraging signs, there was a feeling that with their best squad in decades and arguably their best ever player, Argentina had 15 minutes to finish the job before it came down to the lottery of penalties. For the final 15 minutes, we were on the move again, and I only had one place in mind, Tucumán Street, where all the chaos had occurred.
We go past Tucumán and just see.
Again?
Yeah, I just want to go down Tucumán. Yeah, if there's a cop car there now. Let's go past Tucumán.
And so as we headed back to Tucumán, once again, all I could think about was Izzy. And how despite being so outspoken, he'd got so much right. He'd doubted Argentina's chances, he'd predicted the ensuing nightmare, and somehow he'd even predicted how the actual final would play out.
You're two goals up in the final of a World Cup. It's there.
Maradona.
And they tied, 2-2.
That's just Tucumán. It's right here, it's right here.
Maradona, grab the ball, tuck, here, you can go and score.
We keep the camera down a little bit lower.
You knew in your head he will save you. And Messi is like, I don't know.
The guy pulled the gun right there.
Yeah.
You still believe that to this day?
Yes, to this day.
And then in the 108th minute, as we sat outside Tucumán pondering what to do next,
Le falta épica, Messi.
Izzy was finally proven wrong. Argentina were back in the lead of a World Cup final, and if that wasn't epic enough, and if you thought Izzy's remorse was a drastic change of heart, what was happening where we were was on a whole other level.
That's the man who pulled out the gun. Only 30 minutes ago, I saw that man pull out a gun.
And so once again, that pendulum swung from Argentine hell to a very Argentine glory.
I can't stress this enough. You talk about the glorious highs and the epic lows. Argentina, that man pulled out a gun on someone in that exact spot.
All sense of control, all sense of calm, all sense of, well, sense had vanished in the whirlwind of chaos this match had created, where even the most stubborn were now questioning everything. And so with the lead and the glory back in Argentina's hands, with only minutes to go, we got back in the taxi and headed towards the obelisk, where in only a matter of moments, we knew the entire country would be descending. But we should have known better.
Penal para Francia, le tengo una pelota a Dibu.
Penalty for France. You're kidding me.
Es tuya, Dibu.
Oh, you're kidding me.
Comete.
Just like everyone else around the country, I had just given up trying to make sense of what was going on.
How can this country's not... And now I'm done. When was the penalty? How can I articulate what this is at this point? What's going on?
And so as we approached one of the main streets off the obelisk, we came across hundreds of others just like us who'd headed to the place of celebration a little too early, and were now desperately trying to flock to nearby TVs to try and get a view of the dying minutes of the game. And so for the final time, we got out at another location, where the mood was neither glorious nor hellish, but instead a kind of Argentinian purgatory. And so, as I stood amongst this scene of sadness, trying to guess what was going on in the final minutes of the game, as I had no chance of getting near a TV screen, I came across Laura, who, pacing up and down the street with tears in her eyes, seemed particularly affected.
¿Por qué estás llorando?
Queremos ganar. No sé.
¿Por qué no quieres mirar?
Quiero mirar al cielo arriba, no sé.
¿Quieres un abrazo?
No podemos sufrir tanto.
But suffer they did, as those final minutes of extra time belonged to a resurgent France side aiming to score a fourth and put the final dagger into Argentina before we could even reach penalties.
La verdad que te digo, es nuestro lado.
And so with Argentina holding on for dear life,
La única alegría que tenemos en este país hoy en día. Es la única alegría.
after 3.5 decades plus 120 minutes of excruciating waiting, it looked like their World Cup dream or nightmare would be decided in football's most excruciating way.
Penalties? Penales? Penales. We're going to penales. We're going to penalties. Diego, if you're up there, please, there's 5 kicks.
And so this was it. After 36.5 years, or 462 months, or 13,321 days, somehow this country's ultimate desire, ultimate obsession, ultimate dream was now at the mercy of a series of kicks from the 12-yard spot.
Si tenemos penaltis, pero si tenemos penaltis.
Sería eso mucha tensión. Hay gente que ni lo mira, se va. No querría ver ese partido tan.
Todos unidos juntos como siempre. Tomando carrera va Mbappé. Ahí va, le pegó Mbappé. Gol de Francia, la manoteó Dibu. Gol el primero. La manoteó Dibu, mira Diego. Le va a pegar Messi.
¿Quién ahora? ¿Quién ahora?
Messi primero.
Does Messi take the first kick or the 5th kick?
No, el primer tiro es Messi, el mejor.
Messi, Argentina, hoy. No, I can't watch that one.
Vamos Messi. Vamos Messi.
El mejor lo tira primero.
Tira primero, sí.
One round in and the shootout was already taking its toll. No more so than on Laura.
It's okay.
Argentina hasta ahora, hasta el momento, siempre nos ha dejado un sabor agridulce, porque ha llegado a finales, pero no las hemos podido ganar.
It's okay.
Si juegas mal y pierdes está bien, pero si juegas para ganar y no ganas, teniendo al mejor del mundo y llevándote a finales, o sea, más que nada es como una tristeza, porque el fútbol se lo merece a él. Entonces, que haya llegado a la final en su último mundial, creo que también es un acierto del destino. Que la vida te da cosas malas, pero si las esperas con buena fe, te puede devolver.
Please.
Yo creo que esta victoria con Francia es eso.
Por favor.
Es un puño verdaderamente que nos va a devolver luego de tantas decepciones.
Yo creo, sí, es verdad lo que dice mi sobrino. Yo creo que el destino no se puede equivocar y el destino está para que este partido lo gane sí o sí Argentina.
The second round of penalties had brought a whole new mood. But it was the next round that really saw things change. And so, with a 3-1 lead going into the 4th round of kicks, Argentina just needed to save France's next penalty to win the game and the tournament. And the realization was hitting harder than ever. And whilst France converted their 4th to stay alive, Argentina would still win the World Cup by scoring their next.
Soy hincha de Boca, pero Argentina campeón del mundo es lo máximo. lo cambio por lo que fuera. Lo que yo quiero o deseo es que Argentina salga campeón más que nada por todos ellos que todavía no lo vieron. No se puede describir lo que es Argentina campeón del mundo. Me emociona hablar de Argentina. Lo llevo en el alma y bueno, y veo lo que nos están haciendo y se mezcla todo. Se mezcla todo. Ver que los chicos que trabajan, que estudian, que se esfuerzan, no tienen futuro y se van, y eso me mata. Estoy mezclando todo, pero es la única alegría que vamos a tener y por eso le pido a Dios que salgas campeona del mundo.
Gracias.
Chao.
Gracias, Juan Carlos. Chao.
Football, not sport, football. Football is the greatest thing on earth. I'm not having it any other way. It's the most beautiful thing, it's the most ugly thing, it's the most romantic thing, and it's the most heartbreaking thing. It is the most emotional thing, it is the most Argentinian thing. And with one more penalty, they end the most romantic story, or they start the most romantic story of all.
I think the yearning for success from Argentina, I think it's very hard to overestimate just how much they needed to win, particularly the World Cup. It's been really difficult in Argentina. It's been difficult socially, it's been difficult economically, it's been difficult politically. And so this one moment of pride they've been desperate for, to finally get that, and to do it in what's almost certainly Messi's last tournament, in his 5th World Cup, that's why it means so much.
Ya está, no puede pasar más nada, ya soy campeón.
For Messi and Argentina, it was the perfect final. It was love. It was the romance coming together after all these highs and lows.
Perdón, Messi. Perdón. I'm sorry, Messi. I ask for your forgiveness. I killed you for years. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Perdón, Messi.
Nuevos héroes de Argentina, Argentina heroica, ídolos de la patria, gauchos de fierro.
Well, what we suffered and what we enjoyed in that World Cup, no other memory can take that away. It's going to be special forever.
The fact it's December, the fact it's not the normal time for the World Cup final. Argentinians experience it differently, the fact that it's their summer rather than their winter. There's this question that has been there since the British retreat from Argentina in the first couple of decades of the 20th century of ¿Qué es Argentinidad? What is it? What is Argentinianness? What is it to be Argentinian? And what it is now is football. That is the way that Argentina expresses itself on a world stage. In seeing the scenes after the final of 5 million people or whatever it was out on the streets celebrating.
4 million people in the streets, could have been 10, could have been 20, we never know. But Messi winning the World Cup, scoring 2 goals in the final. In summer, all the planets aligned into a perfect moment. And I think it's the best story that you could write about a football game ever.